Hi, everyone. Good morning. I hope you all are having a great day. And I'm so excited for this session today, and I am honored to present to you Ms. Gayani De Alwis. She has a vast portfolio, having her degree in chemical engineering and food processing engineering, and also being the only fellow of both SLIT and Institute of Supply Material Management in the country. She is the global chairperson of Women in Logistics and Transport, also being the past president of Chartered Institutes in Logistics and Transport. She functions as a non-executive independent director of Singer and Logicare. She is a strong and passionate trainer advocating women empowerment. So with her extensive profile and with what she has been doing towards promoting women empowerment and also developing young minds, preparing them for the world, I'm sure she has had her fair share of problems and she was able to resolve it with her critical thinking abilities. So today, she will be facilitating us on critical thinking and problem solving. So Ms. De Alwis, I would like to introduce you to our coordinators. We have Ms. Shirin from Batiklo and Mr. Dharmasiri from Ambilipitia. And we also have Wendy from WiLAT. So Ms. De Alwis, I can give the platform on to you. Hello,
Okay.
Ms. De Alwis.
Yeah, wait. Yeah, can you hear me now? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear, ma'am.
Okay, wait. Let me first share the screen before I start talking. You have to enable me to share the screen. I'm being disabled. Now correct. Now correct. Yeah, can you all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and am I audible as well?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I want to hear all of you early morning. All of us are energized, lot of energy. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, very good. I would have loved to be there in person with you, but unfortunately, I'm doing this virtually. So I do these kind of sessions for my university, Postgraduate Institute of Management. Yeah, I have 4 or 5 sessions from Jaffna to Batiklo to Vaunia to Kandy to Kurunagala and all of that. So after 2 years, I'm doing a similar session today. So lovely to be here with you. As Amanda mentioned, I am Gayani De Alwis, not De Silva, Gayani De Alwis. Like what she mentioned, I am also a Sri Lankan, thoroughbred Sri Lankan who have gone to school in Sri Lanka, who've gone to university in Sri Lanka, and then working in Sri Lanka. Of course, I worked overseas also, but I am truly a Sri Lankan product like all of you, right? I'm truly a Sri Lankan product like all of you. So I'm just trying to show my face. Wait, sorry, I'm doing it in my room. I can't. Office room, I can't change my background because I'm using Apple computer. But anyway, you would be happy to see books behind me. So you must be thinking I read all of those books. Yes, I do read books. So books really give you knowledge, and that really helps you to understand how the world works. Think differently, think critically. So very important. So I'm very thankful to Headway for actually selecting this topic, because this is a very important topic. Critical thinking and problem solving. We all know we are in a very sad situation in our country. We are in here because we don't know how to solve problems. Not only the politicians, everyone, we don't know really try to solve problems. So before we go into the way how to solve problems, let's start with the icebreaker. Okay, so I want all three centers, Batiklo, Ambilipiti, and Jala, the coordinators. Sorry, I couldn't note down the names. Shereen, Dharmasiri, and Wendy. Is it? Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Yes. So all three of you now will have to work with the groups and inform them, right? When you look at this picture, I'm showing you what is on the screen. There is a picture. I'm sure you must have seen this also before. But when you look at this picture, how many animals do you see? How many animals do you see in this picture? So I want you to critically, individually you do that, then you can share your observations with your team also. Note down on a piece of paper, how many animals do you see in this picture? There are loads, right? So let's start for the next 10 minutes. Just critically identify, carefully watch this picture, identify as many number of animals do you see in this. Okay, so let's start now. Get together, start now. Okay, I think the time is up now. Okay, now you can unmute and now tell me, hello? Hello, centers? Okay. Now tell me, how many have you found? How many have you found? Tell me, Ambilipitia, tell me. Hello? Batiklo?
14.
Okay, 14. Okay, tell me few of the animals that you have found. Crocodile. Okay. Okay. Did anyone find a mosquito? Did anyone find a mosquito? Yeah. Okay. What about Batiklo? How many did you find? Batiklo, how many did you find?
16.
16. What about Jala? 12. Okay. So they're fairly good. Very good. Very good. Now I'll show you the answer. Okay. Now I'll show you the answer. Then you will be. Oh, you have 16 here. I hope Ambilipitia found all 16. But I also have marked here few of the ones that are difficult. Right? See, did you all find? Okay, very easy to find: mouse, hen, crocodile, dolphin, fish, tortoise, elephant, of course, donkey, dog, snake, cat, mouse, but very difficult to find this, no? Swordfish, prawn, bird head, part of that, not fully. Then beaver, difficult, and mosquito here. You see these. So I think this is very important. Why I asked you to do this exercise is that when you are looking at, we come across a lot of problems in our life, personally, and also nowadays in the country also, we go through, experience a lot of problems, right? I see a lot of noise in the class, so if you can mute the mic when you're talking only, you unmute it, okay? Then it's easy. Okay, right, thank you. So if you want to stop and ask a question, unmute and ask a question. Raise your hand, then I can actually answer that question, okay? So it's going to be very interesting in the next few slides. We have a lot of activities. We have to learn a lot of things. We have to learn a lot of theory. We have to learn concepts so that it is going to be very easy, because all of y'all are, I understand, school leavers, right? So I'm sure y'all are waiting to find a job or do some exam or educational program or university, and waiting to go to university, whatever. So it's very important. We all come across problems in our lives. We see problems all around us. But the problem is not many can solve problems, although it seems very obvious and simple. Some things are very simple problems. Some are very complex problems. But either way, you should have the ability to break complex problems, difficult problems into small chunks and break those small, the small chunks that you have broken, just one by one, you see why these problems are happening. Critically look at this. Now see, if you didn't look at this picture critically, in a very observant manner, carefully, not just looking at what is just easy to find, you found a lot of things that you couldn't find normally. But not many can find this. When I do this exercise, sometimes very rarely you get the 16. So you guys are good. You are working with an open mind. You have to be like this in anything that you do when you're solving problems. So today what we are going to learn is, we have 3 sessions. First session, we will understand what are the problems? How do you define the problem? How do you think? Critically think about the problem when you like the picture that you did it. Critically looking at, observantly looking at the problems, because you need to think to solve problems. Not just thinking. Critically think. Go deep into the problem. So the first session, we will look at the problem, how to identify the problem. To identify the problem, you need to critically, in a deep manner, think of the problem. Then the second session, we will look at all problems have reasons, why problems happen. So we will understand in the second session, what are the reasons for the problems? How do you find reasons? There is a structured way to do that, not in a very haphazard manner. Once you do, identify the reasons for the problem, then what you need to do is, in the third session, how do you find the root causes, the reasons? We know now the reasons. How do you solve the problems, the root causes? Once you identify, how do you give creative solutions? Because we are looking at critically, and you have to creatively give solutions. Identify creative ways. Now we lack creativity. We are very good at making memes in social media and doing all that, but we don't use that creativity to do something for the country, for yourself, for us. Very rarely people will think like that. So we are going to, at the end of these 3 sessions, and finally we have a Q&A session, we will understand how do we solve problems, critically looking at it with creative mind. So that's what you will, at the end of the session, by 12 o'clock, 12:30, you will do that. So in between, we will have a break. So Amanda will tell us when the break comes, and she'll also remind me at the end of each session, so that you will be able to, we will be able to go smoothly in these sessions. Okay? Are you all okay with this structure? Yes or no? Are you happy? Yeah? Okay, great. So I'm sure all of you are now, after your A-levels or O-levels or whatever, or waiting to follow some course or whatever your parents want you to do, become a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer or an IT person or HR person, marketing, whatever, or you have some ambition in life, so you're thinking what to do, right? Checking with people, what should we do? Looking at whether I should start a business. Sometimes some young people start businesses on their own. That's very good. So a lot of things must be coming, thoughts are coming to your mind. And you're also thinking what to study. Where should I study? What are the most popular things that I should do, especially in a country where we have an issue these days? Or should I go overseas? And how to study also. That's very important. Because now we never thought we can work from home and study online. So this has opened a lot of opportunity for everyone now. Of course, you need a device to access, but there is so much opportunity you may not have seen before. And global, you don't have to look at only local programs, because there are a lot of programs available online, which are called MOOC, massively online open courses. So very top universities around the world are offering free courses online. So you don't need to sometimes pay for any of these things. They will offer free for you. So you should know where to go and do these things. So I will show you some of the examples. So if you want to develop anything for that matter, any skill, critical thinking or problem solving or leadership or team building or IT skills or special technical or whatever skills that you want to do, you can actually get into the online courses and do that. You only have to pay for some small fee for the certificate if you want only. So very often in this cartoon is in Sinhala, but I will explain. You know, our education system, I'm not criticizing, but I'm telling you because all of you have come through the our education system like me also. Our system is such that we want the teachers to spoon feed you. We have to tell everything to the student. And you know, even for the exam, we will say these are the questions that will come to the exam. You go for tuition classes, the tuition masters will say these are the probable questions, and everyone will go to those classes. If they say for maths, I am teaching to give 90 marks, so please come, everyone will come. But if there is a place who will say, I am going to teach you concept on maths so that you learn by yourself, the teacher who tell that, you will not get many students, because we like the easy way. We like to pass exam with probable questions, somebody giving, what do you call that, question paper, model question paper, right? So we must come out of this. If you want to critically think and look at problems with a different mindset, to solve problems, we must have the ability to think. If we can't think, if somebody is thinking on your behalf, you will never be able to solve problems. So you have to be thinking by yourself, but you should be taught how to think. That's what I'm going to tell you today. Schools should tell students how to think, not give model question papers and say, these are the questions that will come for the exam. So what is important, unfortunately, our education system is like that. Rote learning, we have to always by heart, you know, you say katapadam karana. So you just by heart, remember, study, and you know, just write whatever that is in the book. You don't think. If you can't think properly, I'm not saying not everybody, that is how we have been taught. So when you are not taught to think, you find it very difficult to solve problems. So what I am going to tell you today is, in this class, how can we think creatively? How can we think critically to solve problems? Day-to-day problems that you and I experience, personal life for you, professional life for you, or in the country for that matter, for anybody. You can teach other people. You can teach your parents, your sisters, siblings, all of that, brothers, to do that. So before I move on to the session, I also want to show you, I explained to you the free resources available globally and locally. So education is a great equalizer. If you study well, you don't need to pay and go to university or courses all the time. There are ways and means to learn online. Free resources are available online. It's called MOOC, massively online open courses, right? So now these are available freely on the web. I have given you a few examples: Khan Academy, Coursera, In our own Sri Lanka, we have BP Digital University, BP Education, Mr. Damika Pereira. And lots of, there are online resources of a university student. They do a lot of things. So lots of things that are available. I'll tell you how this Khan Academy started. This Salman Khan, the founder of, now the film star, in the US, he had a niece and niece wanted to learn something. So he was in another location. So he recorded whatever that niece wanted. And this recording, he sent it to the niece through email. Then he realized, oh, this is a good way to teach anybody. And that's how he started this online academy. And now it's a very popular global online open resource. So you upload programs on critical thinking, problem solving, creative thinking, analytical thinking, team working, leadership, computer programming, anything under the sun is available. You can freely, certain things are offered free, certain things you have to pay. Similarly, like that Coursera, all of that. So there are many, Udemy, many things are there, free online courses offered by top class universities. So please visit these resources if you want to learn something. If you have a specialist understanding or you want to learn something, you have an interest and you are very interested or keen to learn something, then you can go into this without even paying anything, right? So understand what's around us. So all of us study these things because we want to find a job or start a business. If you're an entrepreneur, if you want to become an entrepreneur or a startup. So how do you get a job? For you to be employed, you have to be employable. You have to be employable. You have the ability to satisfy the prospective employer that you're capable enough to do that job in the organization. So you need to have the knowledge, you need to have the skill, you need to have the attitude. And nowadays, a lot of the companies are more than skills and knowledge, they hire people for attitude. You may be the best, the most intelligent person who's very skilled, but if you have a lousy attitude, nobody will recruit you. So it's important if you want to get a job or if you want to be employable while you acquire knowledge and the skills like what you are learning today, you need to have the right attitude, have the right mindset. So that's very important when you're really, thinking about finding a job and just getting into the job after your studies. So I thought I'll just start off with that and then show you these are the most important future skills World Economic Forum have identified. These skills are now going away, declining. Things that we used to memorize and do, things that we used to do physically, things we used to read and write and, all that, documented things that we do, you manage people, all of these things that we used to do in the past is going away. Now the future is the skills that are growing are these. Actually, this is some years ago that they said this. Now we are in 2022. These are some of the emerging skills, analytical thinking and innovation. That is what we are going to do today. How do we really critically think and ability to analytically look at things, problems, creatively solve problems, innovation. See, the another skill is critical thinking and analysis. See, these are new skills, future skills that is required now for the new world. Another is complex problem solving. World is becoming very complex now. Very complex world we are living in. Who thought we will have the pandemic, corona, for the entire world? We never thought, no? We never expected. So, in time to come, we will have so many complex problems that we need to solve. So we need to understand. So we are learning the right skills now. So you should be happy that you're learning these skills that are required for the future, so that you become future ready. You can face the future very confidently when you know these things. So it's important that you need to understand this. And with that in mind, let's start today's session, the first session. So we have few minutes, right, till we break. So let's understand now, to solve problems, you need to think. We use our brain to think. I hope you know our brain has two parts, right? You have the left brain and the right brain. Of course, nowadays, with the advancements, the scientists have identified and divided the brain into four parts: top left and right, bottom left and right. So I'll not come to that later because of the time constraints that we have. But we all know we have the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. Tell me, what is the main difference between these two? Can anybody from any center tell me? What do we do with these two sides of the brain? Have you heard this before? Do you really know that you have a left brain and a right brain when you're thinking about something? Yeah? Any idea what we do from the left brain? Any idea that we do, one thing that we do from the right brain? Yeah, any idea? Since you guys are quiet, I will start talking, otherwise we'll run out of time. So normally, the left brain is where you start to critically look at analytical things. So if you want to solve a problem, of course, both sides are required, but mostly you use the left side of the brain, right? Left side of the brain, because that is where we will start looking at language ability. If you want to learn something, you use the left brain. You want to look at a complex problem and solve something and look at numbers, you look at you always use the left side of the brain. You need to analyze something, a problem, understand why these things are happening. You have to, your brain, left side of the brain starts to kick in, right? So these are broadly the basic things that we use from the left side of the brain. So it's more mathematically oriented, right? So the number crunching, all of that, if you're good with numbers, they say you're a left brain person. So I'm an engineer actually. I did my engineering from Pareto University, but later on I moved to supply chain. I started working at Unilever. So I can say I'm actually, there are tests that you can do to see whether you're a left brain person or a right brain person, right? You go to internet, you can see. But actually, when I did that test, I am more in the middle. So I'm kind of a left and a right both, because I'm also a bit creative, right? So creative part of the brain is the right brain, right? So if you want to express yourself, you are emotionally or dealing with other people, the relationship management. If you want to think about new ideas, if you're like an artist or musician, or somebody who can create things, all of those people are more right brain. Pablo Picasso kind of people are here. Most Einstein type of people are on this side, right? So this is how our brain works. So it is not that somebody say, okay, now I'm thinking of problem. Okay, let's switch the left brain. Okay, now I have to give solutions creatively, then I look at the right. No, it's not like that. It works. But these neurons will work with each other. At the right situation, it will come together. But both sides of the brain will work together in giving the signal to you for the required situation. So this is important thing that you need to understand. So when you want to make decisions, so the both sides of the brain will work. So like I mentioned to you earlier, the language, different languages, logical thinking, critical thinking. So the critical thinking comes into this side of the brain, left brain. Reasoning, why something is happening, why this problem is happening. You need to understand why. Unless you understand critically why it is happening, you will not be able to solve the problem. So it is important to understand that reasoning, why this is happening. So the brain will look at problems very critically, going deep into the problems, logically saying, is it the reason? Logic, because of this is happening, therefore it is this happening, like that. Reasoning is happening from the left brain. So right brain is more creative part of the brain, where you express your emotion. When you're sad, you cry. When you're happy, you're elated, you jump up and down, you see from your face. You can easily recognize people. You identify somebody whom you met many years ago, or some schoolmate of yours. No, I sometimes don't recognize, because I teach a lot of students. So sometimes I don't know where I have met this student. In the last 10 years, I've been teaching a lot of students, like thousands and thousands of students. So I don't remember from where. So sometimes maybe it's difficult because brain has become cluttered, right? So if you want to create music, emotion, identifying colors, because sometimes if your right brain has some defect or whatever, some problem, you can't differentiate colors. There are colorblind people. Some neuron is not working, So, and very intuitive, you could feel, this is why this is the case with this person. You have creative ideas. So these are things that happens on both sides of the brain, which help you when both jointly work in your brain. It creates magic for us to solve problems, critically look at things. All of these things are what we are doing, right? So let's understand now. So to solve problems, we need to first think why this problem is happening. But very often, sometimes we don't think. We fail to think. If you don't think properly, if you carefully think properly, you will have lots of issues, and we are experiencing these things in our country. We are blindly doing things without observing things, without hearing things from the people, without hearing from the experts, without look and feel how the suffering people have. We fail to see these things from our left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. So therefore, we don't think in a logical manner. So there are many different types of thinking that human beings have, right? So forget about the names, so complex theory, but just want to tell you how we think, different ways of thinking. Very often we do things without even being aware, as a habit. You wake up in the morning, you just go to the bathroom and brush your teeth. Nobody tells you. As a kid, your parents will say, please go and brush your teeth. But you just do it. As you wake up, you just brush your teeth. You just go to the bathroom. Or when you're driving a car or a bike, nobody has to say, now you turn like this. Your brain works in a way without your knowledge. You stop at a red light. You just drive the car without meeting with an accident. You move to left and right or whatever, where the direction that you want to move. So the things that you do without being aware are called ritual things. Ritually you do things as a habit. There are certain things that we think in a random way. So we call it daydreaming. Sometimes we dream, okay, one fine day I will drive a fantastic car and I'll be in another country. I'm going there and I'll have a big house, or I will get married to this beautiful girl, whatever. So the daydreaming, spontaneously something I'm thinking about it, I'm imagining it. Those things are also thinking. But sometimes we also have appreciative thinking. When you see some dress or shirt or trouser, You feel like, oh, I like that. Oh, I like this girl. I like this boy, right? Oh, I like this food. It looks very tasty. So you appreciatively think about it. And the fourth type of thinking is critically thinking. These are like all surface kind of thing, okay? Very, very emotionally kind of thinking. You know, you are looking at things, you just appreciate, you just daydream, you just do things as a habit. But this thinking is more deep than these three. This thinking requires objective analysis. Reasons why things are. You go deep into the problem, pay attention to detail. You know, observe like the animal picture that I wanted you to check. You critically look at not only the elephant and the dog and the donkey, but there are lots of things that you couldn't see, but you objectively looked at it. You look deep into that. And then not only looking at it, you need to look at evidence. You know, just because somebody gives you something, you should not accept it. Now you see so many things in social media, people without looking at even the validity of it, just share. Some majority of it fake news. But you just, or without objectively evaluating, share it. It must be damaging to somebody also. But we are not evaluating objectively, and evidence, we are not looking at it. As much as possible, critical thinking involves going deep into the thinking for a problem, analyzing it evidence, and with evidence you say, this is happening because these reasons, and finally you make a judgment or a decision, take a decision on that. So that is what critical thinking is. So I hope it's very clear. It's not something that you do it on the surface. You critically look at it. If you have a sickness, you just don't talk to somebody and ask, okay, I have this symptom, what do I do? Okay, some people do that also. But what you need to do is you need to go and see a doctor. Doctor hopefully will give you, look at you, and doctor with his years of experience as a doctor will ask you to either look at your symptoms and give medicine, or the doctor will ask you to do some tests. That's objective analysis. So he asked you to do tests, and with the report, he will be able to, because if he's unable to tell you that this is just a standard sickness, he will ask you to do some tests so that he'll be in a better position to give you, that is evidence evaluation, to form a judgment. Similarly, when you have a problem, you need to look at that. Why that is happening? What are the evidence available? And then you make your judgment based on the knowledge and the skill that you have developed, and you get a judgment out of it. Okay, are you clear? So, what do you really mean by critical thinking? Now, theoretically, what we learn as thinking styles are different, and critical thinking is much more than that. So, what is it involved? You have to be very curious. If you are a critical thinker, you have to be very curious. You have to be very inquisitive. You must know, you must always want to learn. You have to ask from people. You must check the available information. Curiosity. There is a saying, no, curiosity kills the cat. But it is important to be curious. Unless you're curious, you won't have all this objective evidence. You have to be open-minded. Just because somebody tells you, you should not think that is the answer. You have to be open. There may be many answers to the problem. There are many reasons for the problems. So you have to be open-minded. If somebody says, no, you're wrong, don't fight with him. Just think. Why? Start critically thinking whether there are any problems that you have with you, the way you think. Or there may be other solutions to the problem which you haven't thought. Open-minded. Very important. You have to be open, receptive to ideas, other people's views, respect other people's ideas. You have to be very objective. You can't just do things because somebody else asks you to do so. Now, I don't know whether you're looking at these things these days, a lot of political videos and all are there. Central bank, government ministers are interviewing these government officials. So some central bank officials are saying, I said don't do it, but 3 other people wanted to do it. So I was a minority. You can't be like that. You have to be objective. If you think this is wrong, you must say wrong. Just because, after all, this is hard-earned money of the public. So I'm just saying, whether it is in the government sector, whether it's in the school, whether it's in a society that you're part of, whether it is in school, at home, whether it's in your workplace, whether it's in the university or any training center that you're in, if you feel that something is wrong, you need to say so. You have to be very objective why you're saying it's wrong or right. So if you're a critical thinker, you will be very objective oriented. You'll be highly objective. You just don't work hearsay. Fact driven, data driven. You will have facts to say why you're saying that. Of course, you have to be very reasonable as well. You cannot say, I know everything, therefore you listen to me. No, you have to be reasonable. You have to listen to others. If you are a critical thinker, not only you know everything, you have to listen to other people. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Why? We have to listen more than talk, more than you talk. So listening will give you a lot of new understanding about how other people will think. So it's important to understand this aspect, right? So you have to be reasonable if you're a critical thinker. You have to be reflective in your thinking. You have to revisit, like you're standing in front of a mirror. You have to reflect and say, why is it like this? Okay, why did this person say like this? Okay, I need to really look at that. I need to revisit this idea. I need to do this way because this person gave me some suggestions with facts. Okay, I had to re-look at this. So you should be, down to earth. You should be able to respect other people's views and reflective in thinking. You have to revisit, reflect on solutions, problems, so that you can get the best, outcome. And of course, if you are a critical thinker, you need to be analytical. You need to really pay attention to detail. You need to go deep into the problem, why things are happening. You need to have good understanding on, the reasons why. Problem solving ability, analytically, in a structured manner, highly organized, structured manner. So these are some of the critical thinking behaviors of a person. So reflect on yourself and see, do you have these attributes in yourself? If you have majority of these skills in you, then you become a critical thinker. So a lot of the people think that when I do this session, they all say critical thinking people are mostly engineers or some mathematicians. No, it is not. Yes, of course, having that background will help, but anyone can become a critical thinker as long as you logically think about problems. You don't need to be a mathematician. You don't need to be a engineer. You don't need to be having a very high data driven mindset. No, of course, those will help, but anyone can develop critical thinking skills, provided that you do these specific things that I mentioned in a very structured manner. Are you clear so far? Is the time okay for the break, or I can go further, Amanda? Amanda? Okay. Then I'll move on till they alert me. So as what we learned now so far, you have a problem. To solve a problem, we need to understand what this problem is all about, clearly understand the problem, because there are so many problems. We can't solve all the problems when there are bigger problems. You need to break it into small chunks. So if you look at the current problem in the economy, it's a huge problem. But if you try to solve the economy problem as a whole, it's not easy to do that. But first of all, you need to understand what are the biggest problem that we have. We have these queues, the fuel queues, the gas queues, and food, whatever queues. So you need to one by one say, okay, how do you solve the gas problem? How do you solve the petroleum problem? How do we solve this? So one by one, when you do that, little by little, the rest of the problems also will become eased off. So the problems have to be broken into small chunks. But how do you do that? You have to have a thinking, critical thinking mindset to break into small problems. Some people think, okay, I will solve the problem, and they will go and appoint a prime minister or some political party and say, okay, now the problem can be solved by this person. No, you need to have a system in place, proper critical thinking for you to identify the problem. So that's very important. And then only you will be able to get a solution for that. So, okay, Amanda, I'm finishing for the next break, right? So critical thinking is the ability to analyze information. We need to objectively analyze information, and based on the information, in a structured manner, we identify these are the reasons for this, and therefore you make a judgment and then finally a decision on that. So that is what you mean by critical thinking, right? So if you're trying to use critical thinking skills, what are the things you need to do when solving the problems, right? So before the next break, where we will have a breakout discussion with the three centers to identify how to define and identify and define a problem, let's first understand this aspect, so then it will help you to discuss in the groups. So first of all, you need to observe clearly. It's very important to observe. Use all your senses. You have to listen. You have to use your ears properly, widely, open the ear flaps, clearly listen to everything that is happening. Observe clearly from your eyes. Smell if it's possible, whatever that is happening around us. Sometimes the smells, the observations, all these sensors together, and also by talking. Of course, talking will start after observing. So all the sensors must clearly be used first by observing. When you observe clearly, like the elephant picture that we discussed, you will get to see a lot of things that you didn't see earlier. And then you have a lot of things that you have now observed. Now you need to analyze. You need to analyze using techniques. Different techniques, which I will explain to you. How do you analyze a lot of things that you observe? Certain things are very complex. Certain things are very simple. Certain things are already answers are there. So how do we objectively look at? Sometimes you need some information to analyze that, or tools to analyze that. So you need to look at all these aspects. So once you analyze all of that, you decide, okay, these are the reasons for this. So you make a judgment and conclude that finally to make a decision. And then you need to, once you conclude it, then you need to properly communicate, right? So then you start identifying the problem properly, define the problem so that you can use your critical thinking skills to have a problem to the solution to the problem, right? So this is what we need to do. So it's important for us to understand what needs to be done when you're thinking critically. So let's move on to the first group session, breakout session. So I want the three centers, Pareto, Amblyptia, Jala, to get together in the next 10 minutes in the breakout sessions, identify any problem, simple problem identify so that it's easy, agree, discuss with the group, identify a problem and clearly define what the problem is. What is the boundary of the problem? Because otherwise, if the problem is so big, it's very difficult to solve the problem. So identify a problem. What are the techniques that you're using now? I haven't taught you the techniques, how to define and all of that. But in your understanding, let's identify a problem. There are so many problems around us. Maybe it can be something related to your generation or external or personal, professional, whatever. Identify a problem and clearly define that problem. Clearly identify the scope of define the scope of the problem. Then we will see to proceed from there onwards. So this problem is the one that we will be using in the next few sessions, because next session would be about identifying reasons, then identifying solutions. So we can use the same problem to continue in the next two group sessions as well. So identify something which can be easily given solutions and we can use as examples. Okay, so time starts now. Okay, now I think I would like to know from each centers. Can someone tell me what is the problem that you all have identified? Okay, Baticalo, can you unmute and tell me what the problem that you have identified? Or because of the time constraint, can somebody or the coordinator can type out the problem into the chat? Can the three coordinators type the problem of the center into the chat so that I have an idea? So clearly mention the boundaries of the problem and define it clearly. Don't try to solve the world's hunger problem. It's not easy to solve. So identify some simple problem which is not very complex so that you can break into small pieces. So the bigger problem can be solved, but first let's break into small chunks and let's solve the problem. Okay. So now you have identified the problem. So I will not spend time on the debrief what the problem is. I hope all of you have still, nobody has uploaded. So please type the problem. So if we had time, we would have discussed the debrief session. So let's not spend time on that. So I'll just give another exercise, right? Very important. Now watch this picture carefully, right? Because we now need to start thinking, in a very critical manner. We need to start deep observations. We need to really look at attention to detail. Now in this picture, tell me, what do you see? What do you see? What is this picture all about? I want you all to unmute and tell me what you all see in the three centers. Baticlo sees an old lady. Jala, what do you see? Amblyptia, what do you see? Jala, what do you see? Until they think, what about Amblyptia? What do you all see there? Do you also see an old lady?
Yes.
Any other thing do you see? So that means none of you have really deeply observed this picture. There is another thing that you see, not only a old lady.
A young lady is looking.
Very good, Jayala. Yes, you see a young lady also. See, I will show you. See, the old lady's chin is a very old, haggard look. This is her scarf. But the young lady's hair is here. This is her face. So you look at this. This is her scarf. This is young lady's neck and the necklace. This is the old lady's face. So the young lady is here, this one. Do you see, all of you, do you see that? This is the young lady also. All three centers, do you see the young lady also?
Yes, of course, you can
Yes,
see.
yeah. So that is why it is important when you are looking at something, you need to have a very good deep observation. Don't jump into conclusion. Quite common, I also have done it. But it's important to observe, pay attention to detail, very important. If you are joining an organization or if you want to submit your CV to get a job, companies want people who really understand the problem deeply to give solutions. Now, if you only see, I'm using this to reinforce a message in problem solving. But just imagine in an organization, you have a problem. You have a breakdown in the machine. And you don't properly inspect the machine to understand why this problem is happening. So therefore, you can't produce the product. So if you wrongly identify the reason because you haven't paid attention to detail, you really didn't observe the machine properly, you do some patch up, and then this problem will again happen. It keeps coming, the product will get rejected. So the people will be very unhappy. So that is why you need to have a very sharp eye. You have to observe properly like an eagle. You have to be very, very sharp to observe the problem. Think very critically. Attention to detail, very important, right? So why I wanted to show you is the critical thinking. Now we learned about what critical thinking is. Analytical mind, open mind, inquisitive mind, creativity, all of that is good. But if you don't observe, the first step is the observation, properly observe. Then only once you observe, you can analyze the problem properly, right? So you have to have a very good eye for detail. If you don't have a very good eye for detail, that is attention to, attention to detail, you will not be able to solve problems effectively. Understand? Lesson number 1, pay attention to detail if you want to be a good problem solver. Right. Now, bit of theory, right? So we have problems. Problems are there to improve something, to design something to solve a problem, or just do a little bit of refining or tweaking to improve something, refine and do something better. Or you can combine something together and, solve a problem. That's what the government, okay, we had a problem. So they got hold of Ranil Wickramasinghe, they got hold of few people from the existing party and few people from SLFP and combined and made a government. So, that's how some people solve problems. So different people will solve problems differently. So, or you totally look at new things, invent. Problem solving can be that. So to do that, sorry, what happened? Suddenly I just went off. Just trying to wait. I'll just sharing the screen again. Right. Can you see the screen now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I see the problems. One problem is Batiklo is saying using polythene is such a big problem nowadays. Okay. Power interruption is Jaela's problem. Power interruption and food shortage. Then Amilipitia, what is your problem? Right? Food shortage.
Ma'am, they have, food crisis.
Okay. So now by looking at this problem is a very broad problem. When you say food shortage is, it's like a bigger problem for the whole country. Can you solve it like that problem? Politicians also can't solve the problem. So you need to pick a small part of the problem. You can't food meaning all the food. Are you going to solve all the food now? Or you get pick one part, one food item. So like that, you break it into small chunks. Otherwise, it's difficult to solve bigger problems. You have to break it into small chunks to solve, because otherwise it's difficult to, it's like, you know, they say, you know, you keep all the oranges, this thing, and one by one things will fall. But you keep it what you can hold, then you will not fall anything, drop anything. So it is important for you to understand a problem which is manageable to solve, right? So I suggest amblypity select one problem, rice problem or vegetable, whatever. Identify one thing, sugar problem, meat problem, whatever. Identify one item and see how to solve that problem, because otherwise it's too big. Power interruption, okay. Power interruption meaning breakdown in electricity. Again, a bigger problem. Of course, at least you're looking at the electricity problem. What is it that we need to do? Big problem. Then again, polythene is such a problem. So what are you saying? So what are the ways and means to minimize the polythene usage? How do you dispose it? So you have to look at the whole problem. So you need to identify polythene also. Are you going to start with the usage side of it, or disposal side of it, or designing new alternatives for polythene, whatever. So like that, you have to define it very clearly, the boundaries, very important, right? So when you say power interruption, whether it is hydropower, I know broadly you get from all different types of sources the power, but you will have diesel, you have coal, you have hydropower, you have mini hydro, we have solar supplying, rooftop solar, like that. There are different types. So you have to identify one thing that you will do one by one, then you solve the bigger power problem. Like that, different types of food problem that you try to solve, then obviously you will solve the bigger problem of food shortage. So like that, you need to break it down to small pieces, because otherwise it's not like how the politicians are trying to solve the problems. Nothing will get solved because they don't have a clue as to how they are going to solve the problem, because those problems are not solved in the right way. That is why we are in this mess, right? So problems, when you're solving, you will either improve it, you do a new design, or you do a little bit of refining, you will combine two things and solve the problem, or you totally invent something new. Now to do this, you need our critical thinking part of the brain, the creative thinking part of the brain. Critical thinking comes from which side of the brain? Critical thinking comes from left or right? Critical thinking comes from left or right brain? Hello? Critical thinking comes from left or right?
Yes.
Left, very good. So critical thinking side of the brain, that is the left side of the brain, you will analyze, you break down the problem, the problem that you identified. You first analyze whether the food shortage, okay, what is the food shortage? Which one are you going to look at? So you're breaking it down to small ones. So you are now saying, okay, I will look at the rice shortage, okay? And then you will look at how this is happening, or you can list down all the reasons. You list down, okay, what are the sequence of things that are happening? Okay, it is happening because of this, and this happens to this because of this, because we didn't have the food crisis. Rice, if you choose, we actually started with the organic thing, and therefore we stopped importing chemical fertilizer. So chemical fertilizers didn't come on time. So therefore now we have come to the yellow season. That's the biggest season. 75 to 80% of the 60% or 70% of the crop is coming from the yellow season. So we have a big problem. So sequentially we know and say, okay, this is the biggest reason why this problem is happening. This is the next most important thing like that, you can rank and identify the reasons for this particular problem. And on the creative side, what you will do is, now you know the reasons because you're analyzing. Now you need to creatively give solutions. Critical thinking will look at what are the reasons for the problem. Of course, when you're finding reasons also, you need to identify the creatively look at your brain to understand what are the possible things. But of course, it's mostly the left side of the brain. But the right side of the brain, you will creatively identify, imagine and say, okay, what is it that I can do as a solution? How will I now do something to solve this rice shortage? You know, what are the things you need to change now? The way you do things. Can we do home gardening? Can we quickly import something and then start improve productivity in our fields? How do we educate the farmers in a creative way? How you design new ways of doing to improve productivity in the fields? So like that, you creatively look at solutions. So because of the left and the right brain working together, you will solve the problems to improve or design or refine or combine or invent. So you need to have both these right brain and the left brain working together in order for you to give a solution. So it's important now, we know the critical thinking is an important part in solving problems, right? So we need to now wear our thinking cap, right? Very often we fail to think, we forget to think. We keep our brain at home and go to class or school or whatever. Thinking is you switch off, you know, and come. So you just don't talk, just don't think. So obviously problems cannot be solved. So it's important to wear the thinking cap whenever that is required, right? Because critical thinking will help us to manage the time properly. Because very often what happens is, if you don't understand the real problem, if you don't in a very organized manner, hurry at a step-by-step balala, if we don't solve the problem in a very structured manner, in a very organized manner, then you will take the whole day to do that. So that is why today we are trying to learn tools and techniques. There is a way to solve problems. There are tools available in the world to solve problems. Some are complex tools, some are simple tools, which you and I, school leavers, can very easily, all of you can easily learn. Even anybody who doesn't understand, haven't gone to school even, simply some things can be easily understood. So let's understand today the simple techniques that we can understand. So that will then help us to manage our times properly, because time is very precious, isn't it? Time cannot be recycled. We have a finite time. අපිට තියෙන කාලය බොහොම රන්හා සමානයි කියනෝනේ අපි සිංහලෙන් නේ. I'm for the Batiklo students, somebody can trans. So it's time is so precious for us. It's gold, right? So it's important for us to do that. And also critical thinking will help us to make the correct judgment. Now it's not like this. When you are driving the car, you know, you get a call. You don't, you know, stop the car and then try to answer the call. You just, while calling, you see so many times people are just calling and, you know, doing everything while driving the car. This is what will happen within few seconds, because you can't make a correct judgment, right? So critical thinking will help you to make the right judgment, you know, habitually. Remember, you will know that this is not right. This is not what you should be doing. So you will be able to make the correct judgment, right? Otherwise you will go and meet with an accident, right? And we will be able to easily assess the risk. Now earlier also we saw, okay, when you are driving, your attention will go away. When you have to answer the phone, the few seconds, within split seconds, you will, you know, somebody can, you know, come and, you know, knock on you, or you go and knock on to somebody else from behind, and it can be life threatening. and maybe on the people who's on the road, right? So if, let's say, if you're working in a factory construction site, now the people who are there will have to look at critically what can go wrong, right? The risk has to be assessed. Critical thinking will help you to understand what can go wrong. So you know, okay, if you're working with heavy equipment, people movement if happening, then those equipment, you can, it's like on the road, there can be collisions. If they are lifting heavy things, if you don't have a proper personal protective equipment, your headgear, the helmets, all of that, safety shoes in a construction site, if you don't wear that, you will meet with accidents. So then the workers will not come to work. So then you can't run a factory or construction site. So in an organization, when you are working, you need to understand what can go wrong. Critical thinking will help you to understand and assess those risks. Then you will be in a position to proactively, not after something happens, some accident happens, before something happens, you will be able to understand what can happen if this is not right. What can go wrong if you don't follow this procedure? If people don't wear a helmet, what will happen? If they don't wear yellow safety overcoat, what will happen? What if they don't wear safety shoes? What if they don't have a proper license to drive these cranes and all of that? So all of these things, once you identify, it's very easy for you to put corrective measures, preventive measures. මොනහරි වැරදි වෙන්නේ මොනවද කියලා හොයාගත්තට පස්සේ අපිට ලේසි හොයාගන්න මේක ප්‍රශ්නයක් නොවන විදිහට වැඩ කරන්න කොහොමද කියලා. How to prevent the problem? How to prevent the problem? How do you prevent the problem? So it's easy to do that. So assessing the risk will help you to do that, right? So it's important to understand that, right? So critical thinking will help you there. So I'm just giving you a few examples. And it'll also help you to make the right choice. Let's say, like person like me now, I had to reduce few kilograms, right? So my dietitian, if you want to reduce weight or you have to be healthy, you need to have good nutritious diet, right? So you should stop on your sweets. You must eat fresh fruits and reduce carbohydrates. Now for that, you can't decide because you have so many things that you like to eat. But you might have to go to a nutritionist and understand how much calories you take, what is your lifestyle, do you do exercises? So they will tell you based on your lifestyle, කියනවා ඔන්න මේ විදිහට තමයි කන්න ඕනේ. මෙච්චර ප්‍රමාණයයි කන්න ඕනේ. ඔයාලට පැණි රහ කන්නම බෑ. You can't eat any sweets. You do like this. So you practice. So then even when you see some sweets, you will do the right thing. So you make the right choices. When you know critically if you have critical thinking skills, you make the right choices. But if you don't have the critical thinking skills, you will make the wrong choices because you don't know. And why are you doing all these things? Because you want to have a good career, right? You want to find a job. You want to do well in life. You want to start a business if you are kind of wanting to be an entrepreneur. ඉතින් මේවා කරන්න ඔයා apply කරනවා companies වලට, right? So when you apply, how do you write your CV to show that you have critical thinking skills, problem solving skills? It's important to market yourself. So you need to now, after listening to today's session, you have to rewrite your CV to show that you have critical thinking skills if you have it. Because organizations look for people who can solve problems. Organizations want people to think critically and give solutions. That's why they will employ you. To do that, on your CV, curriculum vitae, you need to really show some problem solving situations that you have done. So just because you say I have critical thinking, they will not listen. You have to write in a way that you did this, you had this problem, this is what you did. So some examples you need to mention, or when they call you for an interview, you need to do that. So that will help them to understand, this person is really good. He or she can solve problems in my company. I can train her or him, but I want this person to be taken into the company because he or she has a critical thinking ability, can solve problems, because organizations have problems all the time. You need people with that positive attitude to solve problems. So you will be more marketable. You will be easily employable. So these are things that will be able to do when you have critical thinking and problem solving skills. Now in the first group breakout session, you all identify a problem. Now, it's not like, just that you have to go somewhere, so then you see whether there is money available for you to get into the bus, there are buses there, or then you have petrol in the vehicle, whatever. It's not like that. In an organization, problems are very complex. Even the problems that you have identified, food shortage, power cuts, right? So those are complex problems. Plastic pollution, polythene pollution, big problems. So these problems have to be properly defined using a technique. And this technique is called 5W and 1H. This is a way to properly define, because if you don't understand the problem, then it is very difficult to analyze and solve the problems. The problem identification and definition is very important. So when you are doing that, you have to follow 5W and 1H. What is this 5W? What, why, where, when, who, and how. Very simple, right? What, why, where, when, who, how. So if you answer to these 5 W's and 1 H, then you can easily define what the problem is. First of all, you need to understand what is the problem, right? You have to identify and clarify and communicate the problem that needs to be solved. So what is the problem? So you are saying, I'll just take one example. Polythene problem, polythene pollution. That's what I think, Ambilipedia or Batiklo?
Batiklo, ma'am.
Batiklo. So Batiklo said you have to solve the polythene pollution problem. So polythene pollution where? Polythene pollution in the whole country. So what problem has to be clearly identified. Then why is it a problem? Because that is also very important, because just because you say polythene problem, you don't know the length and the width of the breadth of the problem. So you need to really, in a structured manner, clearly identify. Now, Japanese people are very good at solving problems. That's why Toyota production system, lot of Japanese companies are very perfect in quality. They are very organized, all of that, because they follow problem solving in a very structured manner. So let's first understand, define and clarify and communicate the problem. Then why? Now identify and clarify and communicate why the problem should be addressed. Now, why should we address the polythene problem? Tell me, Batiklo and any other. Why should we solve this problem? Why? Answer yourselves. Why should we solve this polythene problem?
To reduce the environmental pollution.
Reduce the environment pollution. But you can also say why has many other parts. It can go and block drains. It can then go to the ocean. Then it can, so like that, there are whys. There are so many whys, no? So identify that, because solving the environment problem is a broader one. So you say that and say why. Environment meaning what? Because if it blocks the drain, then it can lead to flooding. So then next questions also can we understood easily, right? Then you go and ask where this problem occurs. So then you can say, because you have understood the environment, where the environment is, you can say in the ocean, on the beaches, in the drains, in the waste dumps, you list out where this problem is. Because when you define the boundaries of the problem, හරි ලේසි එතකොට හොයාගන්න මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ කොහෙද තියෙන්නේ කියලා. එතකොට අපිට පුළුවන් ප්‍රශ්නේ ගැන හොඳ අවබෝධයක් ලබා ගන්න. හරි? ප්‍රශ්නයක් solve කරන්න නම් ප්‍රශ්නේ ගැන හොඳට දැනගන්න ඕනේ. ප්‍රශ්නේ ගැන පරතරකට දන්නේ නැත්නම් you can't solve the problem. Right? So you have to have an in-depth understanding on the problem. The more you know about the problem, easier for you to give solutions. Because you're not missing out anything. You may not miss anything. Now to identify all the identify and gain an understanding of the problem, for that you need to have the knowledge. You need to have the knowledge. You need to know where to get information about the problem. If you don't know plastic, polythene problem, where you have this, you can do a Google search. Then they will say maritime pollution, waste dump problem, like that you will see what can that polythene do to the environment. So you should know where to get information, where the problem is, so that you are in a better position to give solutions. And then you need to also identify and clarify and communicate, when did this problem occur? Was it there from last year? Was it only a recent thing? Was it because of COVID you have so many plastic, because everything is being packaged now because of hygiene reasons? So like that you need to identify, because in an organization, when you are solving a problem, you need to know whether it is this year's problem, last year's problem, because when you are solving the problem, then you know whether you improve the performance. Even you as a person, you want to get to the university, therefore you want to get all A's at the exam, or you want to get the Z score, then you need to see last year how many people are taken, what was the Z score. Now you need to know your performance last year or this year, so that you know, okay, what is it that you need to do? If you have failed first time, okay, second time, what is it that you need to do? Like that, you need to really understand the timing, the last year or this year. So the timing is very important. And then who is also very important. Very important. Identify, clarify, and communicate who should implement the solution to the problem. Because there should be an owner for a problem. Otherwise, it becomes nobody's baby. And there is a story, anybody, somebody, nobody. Everybody thought somebody will do it. Finally, nobody did it. Like that. So there cannot be ball falling in a court where nobody is responsible for. You look at our politicians, they're not responsible. After doing something, they say, I don't know. I am not responsible. You can't be like that in an organization. Or can you be for yourself like that? If for your actions, you're responsible for your actions. You can't blame your parents. You can't blame anybody else, society. Personally, if you really do to the best of your ability, you can overcome all your problems. That's, I strongly believe in. Your problems, you only can come out of it. Of course, there is an element of external things that will impact, but you need to understand that. So who should clarify? Who should implement the solution to the problem also must be identified. So plastic problem, who should solve the problem? General public, government, they must put laws, companies must be responsible. So there are so many parties who are responsible for doing that. You can't only blame the government. General public, you and me, how many of us just throw plastic? I don't do any throwing at home. I have a composter at home. I don't send any waste out. I recycle my plastic. I separate my garbage into 3, polka separately, glass separately, polythene separately, and I give it to the recyclers. I said recycle paper. So I don't do that. So I'm responsible for my own action at home. So like that, you have to be accountable for your action. That is when you become a responsible citizen. You can't blame the others. Remember, when you point a finger at somebody, 3 fingers are pointing towards you. So before you point a finger, you must inwardly look at yourself. So therefore, responsibility you have to take. Because even this polythene problem, you all have a role to play. All of us. How many of you go to the shop carrying a recycle bag? I never carry a silly bag to any luggage. I always carry my ready bag, cloth bags. I have several cloth bags in my vehicle and in my handbag. Whenever I go, I refuse to accept silly bag. If I want to buy fish, I carry an ice cream box. And I don't get a silly bag to put my fish. I put the fish into that. I take the meat into that. So like how I do it. So like that, we all can prevent this plastic problem. So therefore, who meaning solving the problem, you and I also have a role to play. Not only the government, not only the producer, not only the supplier, not only anybody else, it's us also. Then finally, how part of it. Now we identify what the problem is. Now we need to see how to solve, how this problem happened. That is the origin. Then how should it be resolved? And how much will it cost to solve the problem? That's also important to understand, right? So how this problem happened, maybe because polythene was cheap and country didn't have the legislation. So silly bags were cheaper, therefore people used to use silly bag for everything. Now, therefore, company has to incur a huge cost. So we need to understand how much cost. And also now to remove that polythene and use something else as an alternative, how much will it cost? So I just gave an example. So when you are defining all of this, then you can clearly say one problem. So solving the plastic problem in the country, or maybe in the beaches, maybe in you take a certain small segment of the plastic problem and define your problem clearly, taking all these definitions, the what, why, where, when, who, how, not just say polythene problem. No, polythene problem is what? What is it that you're going to solve? You need to clearly say you are going to reduce the polythene consumption in the country of so many million tons to so many million, like that. So currently you are having whatever X millions. Now you want to reduce it to this, because overnight it's not practical for you to say 0. So you will have a time plan. All of that has to be clearly identified. So when you are defining the problem, you need to identify all of that. Are you clear? Because this is a bit theoretical, but this is a structured way to solve problems. This is what Japanese have identified, how to solve problems in organizations. And I'm telling you this because I have used this in my company, former company in Unilever. Whenever we have a problem, and when they, let's say in the sunlight line there was a defect, so we look at and say, what is the problem? Okay, identify all of that. Or if there is a problem with our shampoo or whatever, so we look at this structured manner and identify how to define the problem. And then you set targets and say, currently rejection is this, we have to reduce it up to this. So you have a target. So then you go and work towards solving the problem. Okay. So when you're are you clear so far? I want the 3 centers to tell me whether you understood the 5W1H method. 5W. Okay, are you clear? What about Jaila? Jaila, Amblypetia, are you all clear? Meticlo said they understood, but other 2 centers, are you all clear?
Ma'am.
Okay, what about Jaila and Amblypetia?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So I'm sure you can use this methodology in future so that you can understand the problem very clearly. Now, when you're understanding the problem, you have to gather information. You have to gather information. So we have loads of information around us now. So the information must be very obtained from credible sources. You can't just ask from somebody on the road and say, what is the reason for this problem? No. The information must come from reliable sources. It has to be accurate, very clear, very precise to the problem. It has to be consistent. Whoever now, let's say in Sri Lanka, we have Department of Census and Statistics, right? So, or central bank. So there are agencies in the government. There are private parties who has information, who are actually credible and accurate, and they provide consistent information. And it should be relevant to you, and it should be reasonable, because some things cannot be very sensationalized. So you need to, so it's very important when you're identifying problem, the information sources for the problem must be from credible sources, and information must be clear, accurate, and all of that. Because we see so much data around us, so much information in this social media age. You know, data, big data, you call it, you know, so much information. So you get immersed in data. I mean, your generation, you need this always with some device or the other. So we get carried away with this information. So you need to know the authenticity of information. See, they have done some research. I think Stanford University have done some research, and they found out 82% of the young people think that what is in social media is correct. They are unable to differentiate between real news and the fake news, because you believe. So they say the reason why that is the case is because the education system doesn't allow people to think critically. Now they are saying that in America. Just imagine how we are in Sri Lanka, because we are just අර කටපාඩම් කරන්න ඉවරනනේ අපේ ලංකාවේ. ඔහේ කොලයක් බලාගෙන ටියුෂන් පන්තියට ගිහිල්ලා උපකාරක පන්තියේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න ටික අහලා, that's how we are learning. කිව්වොත් 100%ක් මම ගිය අවුරුද්දේ වගේ හිටියා 10 දෙනෙක් 100%ක් පාස් වෙච්ච ළමයි ඉන්නවා. ඒ හින්දා මගේ ටියුෂන් පන්තියට එන්න කටපාඩම් කරන් ගිහිල්ලා අපි යනවා කැම්පස් එකට හරි කොහෙට හරි ගිහිල්ලා රසාවක් කරනවා. So you don't think critically. You don't know the concepts. You don't know to challenge whether this is true or false. So therefore, we have the environment around us now has a lot of misinformation. So you should always fact check. ඒක ඇත්තද කියලා බලන්න validate කරන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම තියෙනවා sites fact check කරන sites තියෙනවා. You can check whether this is true. So don't just forward anything that you get to your phone. WhatsApp or whatever, TikTok or whatever that you get, Instagram or whatever that you use. Don't just, I'm not saying don't trust anything, but you have to be responsible in whatever you're gathering information. Because wrong information can be very damaging for problem solving, and for an individual as for an organization also. Especially now, these days, so much information, inundated. And also, online when you work, you know, all of you know, those who are IT savvy, algorithms තියෙනවා. අපි මෙහෙම ගිහිල්ලා බලනකොට search කරනකොට computer එකේ Facebook හරි social media හරි මොකක් හරි site එකකට ගිහිල්ලා බලනකොට අපේ ඒ system එකේ algorithms improve වෙලා අපි කැමතිවමයි අපිට එන්නේ හැම වෙලේම. If you notice that the algorithms are constantly studying you as an individual, and then it keeps bombarding you with information that you really like, because you might think, nee, this is what I like, I want to go and buy. So you sometimes irresponsibly try to do things without critically thinking. So it's very important in this social media space and online marketing, you know, when you buy online things, a lot of things you guys like to buy online, don't mindlessly go and buy, because you need to critically think, what does it do, what will it, you know, critically identify these things, because technology advancement is so high now. They really study you, right? They really study you. And there is, I don't know whether you all watch Netflix, ඒකේ තියෙනවා social dilemma කියලා movie එකක්. documentary එකක්. ඒක බලන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒකේ කියනවා කොහොමද social media එක අපේ මොලේ හොල්මන් කරන්නේ කියලා. How they really kill your creativity, how they really, you get addicted. It's like drugs, you get addicted to social media. You can't get out of it. So it's that bad. While there are good things as well as bad things. So if you don't have critical thinking mindset, you will get into a mess and you will not get the correct picture of the problem. So that's what I wanted to highlight. Blindly don't go and click on things and do that. Look at credible information sources, right? Then you can easily differentiate from the right from the wrong, right? It's very important to understand, very important, because there is so much information around us. Our ability to differentiate between wrong from right, right from wrong will help us to become good critical thinkers and solve problems in a meaningful manner. So that is what is important to understand. So I just gave you some tips on what critical thinking can do and what is it that will help in order for us. But there are also barriers to critical thinking, which is again social media thing that I spoke about, are also some things that we need to understand. So what are the barriers? What prevents you from thinking critically? So like any other thing, if you don't have an awareness, you don't know how to think. People fail to think, no? Sometimes like zombies. ගල්ගෙඩි වෙලා ඉන්නවා කිසිම දෙයක් හිතන්න දන්නේ නැහැ. හිතන්න අපි හිතන්න මොලේ පාවිච්චි කරන්න එපාය. We need to start using our brains. We must start using our brains. Because when you have lack of awareness, we don't know what's happening around us, it prevents you from thinking critically. අපි හැමදාම පත්තරයක් හරි බලන්න ඕනේ online phone එකෙන් හරි මොකක් හරි TV එකේ news බලන්න ඔය ඕන නැති දේවල් බලන්න නැතුව at least ප්‍රයෝජනවත් තියෙන දෙයක් TV එකේ බලන්න ඕනේ මොනවාද ලෝකේ වෙන්නේ කියලා බලන්න. And you have so much information on the internet now. You must see what's happening around the world. We need to know how that is going to impact your life. දැන් ඕගලන් දන්නවද මේ ලෝකෙ මේ දවස්වල ලොකු යුද්ධයක් යනවා. කොහෙද ඒක වෙන්නේ? What is the biggest war that is happening in the world these days? I just want to check your general knowledge. This started in the month of February. What is happening in the world? Can anybody from any center tell me what it is? I just want to check your awareness, whether you can think critically, have the ability to think critically. මේ දවස්වල යනවා හොගාල යුද්ධයක්. කොහෙද? Any idea? Hello? Which country is invaded by these days? ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයගලන්ගේ awareness එක බොහොම මදි.
Particular ජාල ඇමලි පිටිය answers.
TV එකක්වත් බලන්නේ නැද්ද? Ukraine, very good. Who said that? Particular? Yeah? So, okay, sorry. Ukraine, right? So Ukraine was a Russian Federation country and they broke away many years ago. So Russia is invading Ukraine. Hurry. So there are lots of issues because of the war for the global, internationally. They produce 40% of the global wheat production. මුළු ලෝකෙ 40ක් පිටි තිරිඟු පිටි හදන්නේ Ukraine Russia වල. ඉතින් දැන් we are going to have a shortage in wheat flour. පිටි නැති වෙනවා globally. ලෝකෙ හැමතැනම. ඒ වගේ ගොඩාක් දේවල් තියෙනවා මේ shortage. So I'm saying you have to critically think. And to critically think, you need to know what's happening around us. If you don't have awareness of what's happening, you don't get this information into your problem solving mindset. You can't critically think when you don't have awareness, because you need information to think critically, for you to understand why something is happening. What is the impact? Where is it happening? How can we really look at that? Why is it happening? All these things, to have an understanding, we must have an awareness. So I suggest all of you, please watch news. At least watch news. Even our Sinhala, Tamil news, also they give an international part. Otherwise you watch BBC, CNN, cable TV has all this information. But at least the local news also has an international news component. They keep showing this. So please, if you want to become a global citizen, or you want to become somebody who's acceptable in the new world we live in, you have to have awareness. You need to have common sense. You need to know what's happening around us. So we need to also, barriers to critical thinking is, if you don't take decisions, you have a very poor decision making mindset, or you don't like to take decisions, then obviously you don't take decisions means you are not able to identify why these things are happening and then what is the reason for that. So you can't take and say this is the reason for this, therefore I'm going to do this. Sometimes when you don't have time, when you don't manage your time, you can't critically think because you want to quickly do it. So when you quickly do it, you miss out on things. So if you don't have time, also it prevents you from thinking critically. So you have to start early. You have to start thinking critically to manage that. So I've spoken a lot now. So I want you to again observe this picture, right? Observe this picture and tell me what you see here. It's a bit of a difficult one. Tell me what you see in this picture. There is one thing you can clearly see. Part of something. What do you see? Just think about it and tell me what it is. Because critical thinking is all about observing, analyzing, evaluating. You have to have a sharp eye. You have to pay attention to detail. You have to deeply observe. What do you see? Can anybody tell me any clue on what you see on the screen? I'm just showing the boundaries. See, at least this part, can you see something? Yeah, Jayala, tell me. I see somebody raising the hand from Jayala. Do you see anything at all? Anything at all? Yeah. Okay, so because of the interest of time, see, this doesn't show the full picture. This shows the part of the problem, part of the picture. So maybe because of that, you can't see it clearly. Next slide, when I go to that, you will see what exactly. At least tell me whether you could see now. Could you see now what it is? What is it? Cow. Cow. So earlier, now in the previous picture, you only saw this part, only this side only. So you see, now you can see, this side only we have shown. So the cow is somewhere here. The full picture is not there. So sometimes why I'm showing this is the exercise is you may not have the full picture when you're solving a problem. You will have part of the picture. Part of the problem will only know. But you should have the ability to visualize the full picture because you have gathered knowledge, information, you're more aware. So that is why it's important that you need to have the right awareness. You have the full knowledge of what's happening. You need to have the right skill level, the right mindset. Look at things with an open mind so that you will be able to manage and understand, right? So I have to now do the group session 2. So let's quickly, okay, just on time. Now, all of you have identified 3 problems: plastic problem, power problem, food problem. I suggest food problem to be taken into one type of item, maybe rice problem or wheat problem, whatever. So just spend 10 minutes. We have to quickly do that. 10 minutes and discuss in groups the reasons for the identified problems. What are the reasons? Think about the 5W and 1H also, and discuss in the groups the reasons for the identified problems. And after that, we will look at problem solving tools for the third session, and we will conclude and have the Q&A. Okay, time starts now, 10 minutes. Discuss in groups the reasons for the problem that you have identified. Okay, now let's come back to the class again. I hope you critically used your thinking to identify the reasons for the problems that you all have identified. I hope the next session, the final session, tools and techniques that I'm going to explain to you will help further to refine those reasons that you have identified and creatively look at solutions also. Okay, so are you all back in the class? Yeah. Okay. Okay, great. How is it progressing? Are you okay with it, or you need any support? Am I talking a bit fast or what? Are you okay with it? Are you clear so far? Okay, thank you. That's reassuring. Thank you very much. Okay. So tell me some key insights that you have identified in your groups. I at least want from each center, tell me at least one. Okay, shall we start off with Jayala? Jayala, tell me. මොකක් හරි හොයාගත්ත reason එකක් කියන්න ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ problem එකට. Food problem. What was the food you identified? Unmute it, please. Yeah. What was the එකක් කියන්න බලන්න reason එකක් මට. හරි කියන්න.
Yeah, the reason is food shortage.
Okay.
So why? Because of lack of fertilizers and import barriers, it arises.
Okay. Great. Okay, stop at that. So what you are saying is the land issue, the fertilizer issue, import barrier, and all of that. So because see, fertilizer issue is because of import barrier. So therefore, the immediate reason is the import issue.
Yeah.
Because of the import, you don't have. So we will look at the structured way of looking at reasons when we discuss the next session, 5Y analysis. Okay, Batikalo, polythene issue. What are the reasons?
Polythene is one of the most important and very useful thing in our day-to-day life.
Okay.
However, it's a non-degradable thing.
Okay.
So it pollutes the ocean and the living beings, as well as it blocks the drainages.
Okay, so what you are saying is the polythene issue is it blocks. The reasons is it is blocking the ocean, polluting the ocean, blocking the whatever. So the drains, and also it's not degradable. So it actually pollutes the soil because microplastics are finally getting back to our food chain. So all these are bad. Okay, good. What about power crisis, Ambidipitia?
Food crisis, ma'am.
Okay, sorry, food crisis.
Within an overnight, the government banned chemical fertilizer and shifted to organic fertilizer.
Okay.
There is a dollar crisis, so we can import food or anything.
Okay, very good. Okay.
We have our own self-sufficient food culture.
Right. Okay. Great. So I think you got the hang of it, right? Now you have an idea about how to define a problem, clearly using the 5W1H methodology. And then now you also have identified the reasons for the problem. In the next session, I'm going to explain to you how you really look at different methodologies to do that. Now, before you get into that, I want to give you another exercise. This is very interesting, right? I want you to critically look at this. Look at this. What is this? This is a brick, this good old brick. Look at this brick and list out in your, individually, I want you all to write this, right? What could you do with this brick? What are the ways and means that you can use this brick? You must think creatively now because you have already developed an understanding on creative thinking. There are very unconventional things you can do with this brick. Don't only look at the conventional thing that you do with the brick. There are 101 things you can do. I mean, when I did the exercise, some people did huge number of users. So I want you to quickly just give me, I'll give you, because already we are running out of time. So I'll just give you only 5 minutes. Just spend 5 minutes and individually write down what you can do with the bricks. And then I will see anybody else found out something very different that I haven't heard before. Okay, quickly, time starts now. 5 minutes. Think of anything under the sun that you can do with this brick. Okay? Okay, so I want you all to just tell me from each session. Jala, tell me what you have come up with. Don't, I think the Tanang Wachane prohibitive word is Billy Makhadana because common thing is bricks are used to build something, wall or something, you know. Eka nathu kiyanna balan wenewa. Batikalo, y'all are ready? Yeah, give me some unusual usages of a brick. Okay, how many have you identified? Count and tell me how many?
8.
8. Oh, only 8. Jala, how many have you found?
8.
8. Okay, Emily Vidya? Emily Vidya? How many? What I hear nane 12 කිව්වේ 12. Okay. Okay, I myself have now, I do it all the time. I myself just now wrote 17 things, right? I mean, still I ran out of paper. So, I mean, tell me what you have identified, okay? Conventionally, Kiana Tagala, Kalinasi, I couldn't get. Tagala Kian.
Okay, we can use brick as a brake while parking a vehicle.
Okay, very good. Yes.
And we can use to weightlifting.
Yes.
To hit the mangoes.
Oh, very good. Yeah, no, don't laugh. That's a good one. So I think, okay, that's enough, right? Tell me, Emily Vidya, also something like this, very unusual things. Mokadda?
We can make a hearth for treatment.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah, uyanna hadana ekak ne heart කියලා නේ කිව්වා නේ.
When leg is broken, we can use it as a weight.
Yes.
In treatments.
Yes, very good. I ගොඩක් අය කරනවානේ මේ bricks කුඩු වුණාන් පස්සේ ගිහිල්ලා අර anthurium flowers වලට දානවානේ මතකද? Anthurium. Yes. So I mean lot of things. Okay, what about Jala? Anything new? Yeah, flipper හදා ගන්න පුළුවන්. Yes, you can make actually out of that. Yeah. So I mean, I have done this session many times, this exercise. Sometimes some identify as high as like, 40, 50 things. So there are lots of things you can find if you really critically think without any boundaries. Just not be confined to only what you know. critically think what can be done. So therefore, I just did this exercise to show you the possibilities. Don't confine yourself only to do things that only you know within your, so try to critically go beyond what you can think also, and critically challenge the conventional way of thinking. ගොඩක් වෙලාවට අපි ඔක්කොම නිකන් සාමාන්‍ය විදිහට හැමෝම කරන විදිහට කරන්නේ. එහෙම නෙමෙයි. You need to challenge the conventional thinking. ඒකනේ අපිට මේ තත්ත්ව වෙලා තියෙන්නේ මේ රටට. You have to challenge. ඇයි අපිට මේක වෙන විදිහකට කරන්න බැරි? Why can't we do things differently? You must always challenge and ask the question. Then only the innovation, the creativity will come out in you. Right? Your innovative, creative you will come out when you challenge your conventional thinking. ඒකයි මේක අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට පළවෙනියටම හිතන්නේ ගඩොලෙන් බිල්ලිමක් හදනවා, තාප්පයක් හදනවා, එහෙම නැත්නම් පොළවට හදනවා. ඒ වගේ. අපි හිතුවද මේක අර කාර් එකක ජැක් එකේ අර යට අඩයක් තියන්න ගන්න පුළුවන්. You want a book මේක හොඳට වටේ පත්‍ර කොලකින් ඔතලා you can keep this as a door stopper. Yeah, you can also nicely do this and keep your computer on top of it. මේක හොඳට කොලකින් වහලා ඔතලා. You can keep it as a flower stand, pot stand එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. Right? You can hit somebody from this also. That is also possible. Yeah, you can, like you are throwing stones at a tree and like mangoes, you said no in particular, so like that you can pluck things in a tree. Right? You can also make it in a cooking hut. You can also you can use this as a book stand, nicely covered. You can use it for concrete. Lots of things you can do. You can make it a nice garden path. You can අර පාතියක් හදනකොට වටේට ලස්සන ගඩොල් හදන්න. ඒ වගේ you can do that. Anthurium වලට කුඩු කරලා දාන්න පුළුවන්. Don't only think this. You can also, when it is broken, you can make it as a powder. You can make blocks. Many things can be done. So there are endless possibilities of reasons and answers. So please don't confine yourself only to think the basic things that all of you know, because your knowledge will help you to understand. So now we will quickly go into an area which is very important for us to understand how to solve problems using structured tools and techniques in a very structured manner. Some things you may feel it's a bit too technical, but just at least if you understand the concept will help you. මොකද මේක ජීවිත කාලය පුරාම ඔයගලන්ට ප්‍රයෝජන වෙනවා if you really understand this. And this is, I have only picked the very basic ones. There are complex problem solving tools. I haven't given it to you because you all are just school leavers, you all are very young, but I know you in A-level, O-level, you all have done many things. So I'm just giving you the gist of these techniques, tools and techniques so that you will understand. So when you are solving a problem, this is the problem solving loop, how you will follow that. First of all, you need to identify the problem. That's what we did in the session 1. And then you identify the information and see, exploring the information, and you need to really look at the definition of the problem clearly and create a problem definition clearly, like using the 5W and 1H technique that we used. And then you explore and see what are the possibilities, what are the reasons. And based on the reasons, you select the best, whatever the most possible idea for the problem. And then you will try to implement the idea and see whether it is okay and it will address the problem. You test it. If it's okay, you then see what is the results of that. If that is okay, you continue. No problem. But if you sometimes give the not so good solution, half-baked solution, then obviously you will not receive the end result. So it's a closed loop thing. So you need to make sure that your problems are solved in the structured manner. And each stage, there are techniques that you can use to make it a proper structured way to do that. So there are many problem solving tools, right? I am just showing you here the basic ones. The last two ones are a bit complicated, but I am showing these two. It's very easy to understand. So by using the problem solving tools, you will be able to understand the reasons for the problems clearly in a very structured manner without missing out on anything. So to solve a problem, first you need to get together and brainstorm. You storm your brain, because your brain, you have to critically shake it and see whether you can get ideas for defining what the problem is. So storming the brain. And then you ask why 5 times. You'll do an exercise, you will understand. And there is also an 80-20 rule, which I explained to you again. And then there is a technique called fishbone diagram. And then you also have a creative way of doing that called mind mapping. So I'll just explain to you briefly what these things are. These 2-3 things very easy to understand. These things you might find it a bit difficult, but let's slowly move on to understand that. So brainstorming means, if you now like what you did today, all of you in your groups, if you have a problem, you get together. You get together, somebody is leading the brainstorming session. Okay, somebody has a problem, maybe your coordinator will say, okay, this is the problem. And now we want to understand reasons for the problem. So we allow each and every person to say why. Don't stop. Sometimes one person will talk, not allow anybody else to talk. So the rules of brainstorming is, you go one round, get everybody to say something. If somebody doesn't have an idea, just move on to the next person. So you go like a round thing, go around everybody and then get ideas, and just either you note it on a computer or put it on a post-it pad on the screen, on a board, so that you have everybody's ideas, right? So brainstorming should allow, because somebody should be there to lead the brainstorming. Then, so somebody who will be the rapporteur, and then you should work as a team, because nobody is superior to the others. So if you're the leader, you need to make sure that there are people who will not say, okay, this is a stupid idea. No, this is not okay. You can't humiliate anybody when you're brainstorming. Everybody's idea is valid. That is the rule. You must give everybody a fair chance to say something. So the leaders must ensure everybody is taken along with them. Nobody drops off. Make sure everyone has a fair chance to air their view about this particular problem. So that's the step number 1 in problem solving. You need to first do the brainstorming, get everybody's inputs for the problem, right? And then there's another technique. Now we need to understand why this problem happened. Now this technique was adopted by Japanese, right? In any problem, this Toyota production company, Taichi Ono is the owner of the company. Any problem they have in the production floor, they all go to the production floor when there's a problem. So what they do is, when there's a problem, they get together in a room and then they ask this why 5 times. When you ask why 5 times, you will end up finding the root cause to the problem. So let's take an example, then you will understand what I mean, right? Let's say you are coming to the training center, and in the morning you come in a car or a bus or whatever. Let's say you come in the bike and you cross the red light and you caught you. Police car ඇල්ලුවා යාව. මොකද රතු ලයිට් එක ඉග්නෝ කරලා යන්න ගියා. දැන් බලමු ඇයි මේක වුනේ කියලා. මේක ප්‍රශ්නයක් නේ දැන් ඔයාලට ඔයාගේ ලයිසන් එක තියාගත්තා. හරි? Now let's ask why. Now that's a problem for you now. You got caught to the cop because you violated the traffic rules in the country. So that was your problem. So you ran through a red light. Now let's understand. We'll ask the first why now. Why did you ran through the red light? So you will say because you were late for the class. Right? So then I will ask the next question. Why were you late for the class? Then you will say, I woke up late. Then the third why is, why did you wake up late? Then you will say, I put an alarm, but alarm didn't work. Then I ask, why did the alarm not work? Then you will say, battery wahala. Then I battery basi. Final why I am saying, I forgot to check. The real reason is not because you ran through the red light, you got caught. Because you didn't check the alarm clock and change the battery. Annetara thamai root cause. So now see, when you ask why 5 times, if you just stopped at this, you would have jumped into conclusion and found something else. But if you go to the root cause, you would have now, if you thought that reason is woke up late, then next time you will wake up early කියලා නිදා ගන්නවා. හැබැයි එදත් ඒකම වෙනවා. මොකද ඔයා බැටරිය මාරු කරලා නැහැ because you didn't go into the real root cause. So now this is how you find the real root cause, so that you will not have that problem ever again. That is how you find reasons for problems and then identify the root cause. Is it simple? Isn't it simple? It's such a simple technique, isn't it? Ask why 5 times. Any problem this can be identified, then you will end up with the answer. So this is the simplest tool that you can use. You don't need to learn anything, mathematics or anything like that. This is such a simple tool. Brainstorming is very simple. 5 why analysis is very simple. Okay, now a little bit getting complicated. Now the other tool is called 80-20 rule. This guy is Wilfred Pareto, right? Wilfred Pareto is the guy, he's an Italian. He's an economics and an engineer also, political scientist also. So in Italy, he did a study and he found out that 80% of the wealth is with 20% of the population. You can see it as wealth එක තියෙන්නේ 120ක population එක. ලංකාවෙත් එහෙමනේ ලංකාවේ නම් 100 ගානක තියෙනවා 100ම හොරකම් කළානේ ලංකාවේ. So like that. So he found out 80% of the outcome is happening because of the 20% of the inputs. So therefore, this particular thing can be used in anything you do. So now world over, this is being used, and this is called Pareto principle or 80-20 rule. So when you're finding a problem, you can't look at all the possible reasons and say these are all reasons for this problem. So if you apply 80-20 rule, you will realize 80% of the problem or the results happen because of the 20% of the things. So if you go and tackle the 20%, your problem, majority of the problem can be solved. So therefore, when you are listing out your reasons, you need to identify what is the majority or the 80% of the reasons for this particular problem. And then you can prioritize. So once you finish the first 80%, then you go and find the next 80%, next 80%, like that, you will do that. So if you look at the 80% of the result happen because of the 20% of the effort. So you need to understand that. Right? So this will be able to prioritize your solutions. And that is what this Wilfred Pareto informed us. So this is another tool we can use in problem solving, because not all problems are reasons for that problem. 80% of the problems are happening because the 20% of the reasons. So therefore, go and solve the 20% of the reasons, then we will be able to solve the problem. Okay. Now the fourth thing is called fishbone diagram. Now, when you look at this, it looks like a fish, right? And fish ke katu tiyenne mehemane. Meda kattක් තියෙනවා ඊට පස්සේ චූටි චූටි කට් ටිකක් තියෙනවා. So this technique was actually taught by the Japanese again, called Ishikawa. So he's a scientist. So he actually looked at this, and then he identified when you have a problem, you put the problem here, fish ගේ ඔළුව. ඒකට හේතු මොනවද කියලා අපි දානවා කටු වලට. ඊට පස්සේ ඒකට හේතු මොනවද කියලා ඕනම් පොඩි තව කැලේ ටිකක් දාලා ප්‍රශ්නේ විසඳන්න ස්ට්‍රක්චර්ඩ් මැනර් එකකට කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් අපි බලමු උදාහරණයක් වශයෙන් මොකක් හරි අපි බඩුවක් ගන්න ගියාම ඒක වැරදි විදිහට හයි කරලා තියෙනවා. right? Incorrectly assembled parts. So එතකොට ඒක මේ හොයනකොට ටෙක්නික් එකේ reasons why කියලා අහනකොට you can put under these headings, then it will help you. So is it because of the measurement issue? Is it because of the machine? Is it because of people or the man? It's easy to identify when it is starting with M. Is it because of the method? Is it because of the material? Is it because of the mother nature? There is another M actually which is missing here. Because of the environment. So under these headings, you identify in the fishbone why this problem is happening. So let's say the same issue about you getting copped at the red light, traffic lights. This is the problem here. Then you check why. Is it because of a measurement issue? Is it because of machine issue? Is it because of man, person, that is you? Is it because of the method? Is it because of the material? So like that, when you do that, this is the primary reason. For this reason, when you ask what are the reasons, there can be secondary reasons. Why this machine is breaking is because it is not properly fixed it. Okay, why people are have not fixed it properly? Because there is an issue with training, or there is an issue with communication. There is an issue with procedures, whatever. So you need to, you can easily document all of this. So information is very clearly mentioned, so you can easily identify the reasons. So I know this is a bit technical, but this is one technique called fishbone diagram. So one final one we need to learn before we close. The other one is called the mind mapping. See, when you do a subject, you do short notes, no? Something like that. This is very creative people do this. I'm not a fully creative person. Mind map can make different things in a creative way with pictures, so that it's easy for you to visualize the problem. Right? දැන් මේකේ කියන්නේ ඔන්න වඩ health ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. මොකක්ද මේ reason එක health එක තියෙන්නේ? ඒක වෙන්න පුළුවන් නිදා ගන්න තියෙනවා. sleep. එතකොට එයා sleep කියලා දාලා පින්තූරයක් අඳිනවා. stress ඉන්න වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් exercise කරන්න නැති ඉන්න වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයාට කිසිම support එකක් නැහැ health දැනගන්න මේ health එක ගැන. එහෙම නැත්නම් you have problem with your diet. So like that, if you are a very creative person, you draw it like that, so it's easy on a piece of paper to see what the problem is. This is called mind mapping. You map the whole problem into a map in your mind and map it and convert it pictorially. So then බලන sleep එකේ හේතුව. ඔයාගේ ජීවිතේ 133ක් ඔයා බුදියාගෙන ඉන්නේ. එතකොට ඔයාට මොකද්ද තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ? ඔයාට නිදා ගන්න බැරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. ඒකේ හේතුව මොකද? ඔයාගේ net එක හරි නැහැ. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයාට regular exercise නැහැ. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයා බුදියා ගන්න වෙලාව upset. ඔයා එහෙම නැත්නම් smoke කරනවා. So like that reasons තියෙනවා මෙහෙම දානවා. හරි? stress මොකද? ඔයාට මේ ඔයා හැම වෙලේම අඬනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයාට බඩේ අමාරුවක් තියෙනවා. එහෙම නැත්නම් නිින්ද යන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයා හැම වෙලේම anxious. හරි? or maybe ඔයාට ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා ඔයාට විභාගෙට පාඩම් කරන්න තිබෙනවා ඔෆිස් එකේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් boyfriend girlfriend or whatever ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. හරි? So like that you know there are different parts here which will help you to break the bigger problem into smaller areas, and you will be able to visualize the problem in a better way. So if you are a creative person, you can put pictures so that it's easy rather than just putting text only. So you can draw it, and now in the computers you can draw this. Computer mind mapping is also happening digitally now. So these are things that you can look at it. So this is only the complicated ones, these two. But see, I'm sure you got some idea on what this is. And I don't think I will have time to, because we have to also close. So therefore, we have to understand when you are solving a problem, right? First of all, we need to first identify and define a problem, right? And once you define the problem, then you need to understand why this problem happening, then therefore you need to identify the root causes. To root causes identification, you need to follow these tools that I have explained to you. Then based on the tools, you also will come out with solutions, and you need to creatively think out of the box, like the example that I spoke to you about the brick. How can you think out of the box, not only within a box? You just think outside. What are the creative new ways of finding solutions to the problem? And you need to, if we had time, we would have discussed in groups the solutions for identified problems. So I expect you to individually, or maybe if you have time, discuss solutions to the problem, following those diagrams, tools that I explained to you. So when you follow all that in a structured manner, you will be able to manage the whole problem in a more meaningful manner with that. So let's do one final icebreaker. Now this is a bit complex. Now you all learned, you know, how to define problems, you know the techniques now, all of that. Now you have the bigger picture here. Now you need to identify where the problem, picking the problem is also a difficult part. Because when you have complex things, what is wrong from the right has to be clearly understood. Look at this picture and tell me what is one difference exists. One simple difference exists. Carefully watch and tell me what is the difference. I'll give you 2 minutes. Just carefully observe this and tell me what is the difference. Spot the difference in this. I myself couldn't find. Where things are wrong, okay? You tell me where. Sorry?
In the first picture, the person who wears white shirt, he looks like looking serious.
Huh?
And the second picture, he is looking like with smiling.
Are you referring to this person?
Yeah.
Excellent. Very excellent. Excellent. Very good. See, you're very good. You have a very good eye to spot the issue. So that's very important. See, all what we learned now, I just brought into this level to show you now. You may have critical thinking and all of that, but if you know unable to identify, you know, the problem, because sometimes the problem are very hard to identify. You need to really go with a fine-tooth comb to identify that. All the pictures are exactly the same. This particular person is very serious. Here you have a very smiley, not smiley, you know, he's just making some expression on his face, very different. So thank you, well done, Batiklo, for identifying that quickly within few seconds. So this is the reality that we see in real life. You should be able to, some are very difficult, some are easy. How do we really spot the problem? And once you identify the problem, how do you define the problem clearly, and so that you will be able to go and give targeted solutions to resolve the problem. Not patch up neme. Hurry to root cause. Ask why 5 times. Not stop at halfway. You know, you go to the real root cause. So when you are doing 5 why analysis, also you have to work with the team. Because sometimes you may not know all the answers to the problem. Like if you're working in a factory or an organization, you may not know everything. So you need to get all the relevant people together. Even if you are having an issue at home, but father knows, mother may not know, the daughter may not know, son may not know, whatever, whoever. So you need to get together as a family and then look at all this and see what this problem is, why this problem is happening. So it is important to use this in a very organized, methodical manner so that you are not missing out on anything. So problem solving is all about identifying all issues that you have. And we can't miss out on anything. If you don't have the knowledge, all of that you will not get it. So you need to have the right skills. That's why we are learning these critical thinking skills. problem solving skills. Knowledge you have acquired over the years, whatever the knowledge, if you're going to be working in a factory, you should have an understanding on those technical skills. But then in addition to that, you need to have the skills of critically thinking, time management, problem solving, influencing, negotiating. There are lots of skills that you need to acquire when you are working in an organization or working with people in the society and all of that. So how do you acquire those skills? And then of course you need to have the right attitude, right? So I just want to do a few more slides of bit of advice to you. Just read this. A bar of iron costs $5. Made into horseshoes, right? So this bar, cost $5, but you can make horseshoes for this. So අස්සයාගේ යටේ දාන්නේ යට අකුලට. හරි? එතකොට ඒක $12 වලට විකුණන්නේ. Iron bar එක $5. ඩොලර් එක 12ට විකුණනවා. දැන් නම් වැඩි මේක පරණ එකක්. horseshoe එක ගාන මෙච්චරකට කරන්නේ. ඊළඟ මේක අපි යූස් කරලා අපි පොඩි needles හදුවොත් එහෙම ගොඩාක් හදලා විකුණන්න පුළුවන් 3500කට විතර. මේ whole bar එකේම තියෙන needles ටිකක් හදලා විකුණනවා. then ඊට පස්සේ මේ ඉතුරු ටික අපි දැම්මොත් එහෙම balance spring හදුවොත් watch එකකට කීට වඩා valuable. Made into balance springs of watches, it is worth 300,000. මොකද්ද මේකෙන් අපිට කියන message එක? Your value is determined by what you are able to make of yourself. All of you are unique in your own way. But if you don't make, I can මොලේ පාවිච්චි කරන්න ඕනේ කියලා. Some people are very successful, some people are not. And you must also have self-confidence. You must have the passion and the drive to do well in your life. So it is only you can make the difference to yourself, not anybody else. So you can become a very successful person by acquiring all these skills: critically thinking, problem solving, acquiring leadership skill. You are doing series of programs as part of this to become a better version of yourself. How do you present yourself? How do you develop a personal brand? All of that you have been learning. So the value is determined by what you do. So if you want, you can be only a bar of iron and it will not cost that much. You can't make money. But if you want to add more value to yourself by learning new things, trying to develop a better understanding. I told you about the new online resources available. Try to do things differently. Talk to people who have achieved success in their lives. Share with them. Have a mentor. Learn from others. Watch news. Understand what's happening around us. So with all that, you become a better version of yourself, right? So it's important. It's only you can make a difference to you, not anybody else. So 90% of the things, if you do for yourself, you can do. 10% only is outside of your control. 90% of the things, if you do it, you can be a better version of yourself. So don't try to think that, okay, government is not right, political parties are not doing anything, my neighbor is not right, my friends are like this. Don't blame anybody else but yourself. If you want to be a better version of yourself, do that. So you have to practice in whatever you do. All these famous people, Michael Jordan, all these Apple CEO, all of these people, the doctors who, really do so many operations and all of that. This person, Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote this book, The Story of Success, he has written so many stories about successful people. So he says, if you want to be an expert or a world-class person, you have to practice. He says, at least 10,000 hours you need to practice. Then only you become an expert or become really a great person. So please don't think success can happen overnight. All those people who have become successful in their lives are people who have really, really worked hard, really, they didn't, not everybody has to go to university. He's a school university dropout. Whatever you do, I'm saying, you can make a difference to yourself if you are focused, if you're passionate, if you really practice whatever, then you become an expert. So my advice to you is, don't ever doubt yourself. Don't ever doubt yourself. No one can destroy iron but its own rust. So it's like that. So no one can destroy you without your permission. So if you're weak, then you will fall into that. So please, if you are strong, if you are bold enough, no one can destroy you as a person because you are a strong personality. So it's up to you to make a difference to yourself. I keep saying this, and I never look at other people and run my race. I always try to be a better version of myself than yesterday. So then there is less pressure because you're competing only with yourself, not with anybody else. තමන් එක කම්පීට් කරන්න. අර මගේ යාළුවත් එක්ක අල්ලපු ගෙදර එක්කෙනත් එක්ක යාගේ ළමයාත් එක්ක අනිත් එක්කෙනත් එක්ක don't try to compete with anybody else. It's good to know what's happening to benchmark, but please compete with yourself. That is why you should learn these new skills, the future ready skills like these critical thinking, analytical thinking, leadership, all of these skills, because our attitude impacts our outcome, right? So whatever the skills and knowledge you have, if you don't have the right attitude and the mindset, you will never succeed. So again, this is a study that has been done with Olympic athletes. මොකද athletes ලාට හරියට practice කරන්න ඕනේ. ඒගොල්ලන් එක study එකක් කරලා තිබුණා ඇමරිකාවේ. ඒගොල්ලන් බලලා තිබුණා ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ සමහර athletes ලා හරිය successful. Some athletes ලා successful නැහැ. ඒතර ඒගොල්ලන් බැලුවා research එකෙන් හොයාගත්තා attitude එක බොහෝම වැදගත් වෙනවා ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ final outcome එකට කියලා. මොකද අපි ගොඩක් වෙලාවට දන්නවා අපි දැන් උනත් excuse me දැන් උනත් social media බැලුවොත් negative මනේ රටේ අරකයි මේකයි බැන ඉන්නවා. But nobody is trying to now show anything to improve it. Okay, politicians are politicians. There are things that we can do within our control. I saw a post by somebody. TV එක දැම්මොත් අපිට හැම වෙලේම පේන්නේ polling කවදාවත් TV station එකක් පෙන්නනවාද මේ gas වලින් ගොඩ එන්න අර අලුතෙන් ලස්සනට ලිප් හදපු කට්ටිය බයෝගෑස් වලින් උයන කට්ටිය ඒගොල්ලන්ව පෙන්නනවාද නෑනේ. එහෙම අයත් ඉන්නවනේ මේ ලංකාවේ. එහෙම අලුතෙන් හදලා අය ඉන්නවනේ. ඇයි අපි ඒගොල්ලන්ට පොසිටිව් විදියට පෙන්නලා කියන්නේ නැත්නම් මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ තිබුණාට ප්‍රශ්නේ පෙන්නුවයි කියලා කින් ගොඩ එන්න පුළුවන්ද? බෑනේ. So it is the attitude, not only individuals, the society, the media, the politicians. අපි තමයි society එක හදන්නේ. So if we don't change, we are part of the society. If we don't change, we can't make a difference to the society. So if individually all of us don't change the attitude and say we can do it, හැම වෙලේම I won't, I can't, I don't know how to do it, all that negative නැතුව, if we can become positive, I think I can do that. I can do it. I will do it කියලා positively හිතපු ගමන් මෙතන ඉන්න කෙනා ඩොංගාල උඩටම ගිහිල්ලා chances of you becoming a successful person becomes much higher. So that has been proven through research with athletes. It's the real truth. I have personal experience on this. If you think you can't, you will never be able to achieve anything. If you think you can, it is possible because the brain, the neurons, the positive energy that you have will always lift you up, not put you down. Your energy is not getting drained. ඉතින් අපේ ඇඟ හැම වෙලේම positive ගැන හිතන්න පුරුදු වෙන්න. මේ negative තිබ්බට ඒවා අපිට කරන්න බැරි දේවල් තියෙනවා. අපිට 90ක් අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන් දේවල් තියෙන 10 අපිට බැරි කරන්න. පොලිමේ ඉන්න නැතුව අපි කරමු කිසි දෙයක්. මම කිව්ව example එකක් හරි අපේ ගෙදර solar අපි පාවිච්චි කරනවා. ඉතින් අපිට power cut වලින් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. අපේ කුණු කාගෙන්වත් කුණු කාර්ය ආවේ නැහැ කියලා ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. අපේ ගෙදර අපි compost හදලා තියෙනවා. තලවලට දාගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේ අපි මට ප්ලාස්ටික් බෑග් නැහැ කියලා මට ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. මම රෙදි බෑග් එකක් හෑන්ඩ් බෑග් එකේ හැම වෙලේම දාගෙන යනවා. ඒ වගේ අපිට කරන්න පුළුවන් දේවල් තියෙනවා. Why can't we do that? අපේ ගෙදර වත්තේ අපි පුළුවන් විදිහට පොඩි purchase ගානේ අපි හදලා තියෙනවා. එළවලු පලා ඉතින් කොම කන්න බෑ. නමුත් පුළුවන් විදිහට හදනවා හදිසිය ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආවොත් අපි ගාව තියෙනවා. So like that, why can't we have an attitude and a mindset that we can do it and we can be self-sufficient in our own little small plot of land that we have by critically thinking to solve problems. And that's all that we need to do. So with that, we are 12:30. We'll quickly see this video and then stop for questions, right? So watch this video very carefully. Really, we need to really look at a change in the way we look at things. Watch this video. Ready now? Are you ready to change? So that concludes my session. So let's start the Q&A. I hope the last video really energized you, because we have to be like eagles, not like kaputas, okay? Let's be eagles, right? So we talk so much about kaputas, just divert our attention on kaputas and let's become an eagle. Because if you want to change, we need to change ourselves first. And we can just fly high above the clouds, right? So that you can really go on another journey when everybody is just talking negative things. You can really become a beacon of hope for yourself and for the society and for the next generation. So that concludes my part of it. So it's time for questions now, right? So I would like your questions or ideas or views. I hope you have identified ways and means to solve problems. And I hope you'll switch on your critical thinking part of your brain all the time now, so that you as the next generation of our country will solve the problems that we are at hand in your own little way, in your own little space. Okay, over to you now.
Thank you so much, Ms. De Alwis. So I would like to invite the centers, Pareto, Amlipitia and Jala. We're ready for your questions.
You can ask from any language, but and I think Susan can support if there are questions in Tamil. So uncomfortable, but we need to learn English as an international language. That's important. But if you want any clarifications, if you don't have questions, I feel that either two things can happen. No, didn't understand anything, or you're perfectly understood everything. I hope it's the latter.
So Ms. De Alwis, since they are taking time, I have a question, ma'am, if I may ask you.
Sure.
So you were talking about the different strategies, ma'am, towards problem solving, brainstorming, 5 whys, 80-20 rule, fishbone diagram. I was curious to know, ma'am, which one do you utilize the most and why?
No, I think it depends on the complexity of the problem, but I think the easiest thing is 5 why, because it's very easy for anybody to use, no? I mean, because there is a structure in an organizational context. If you are working in an organization and if you have a problem, there is a structured way to solve it. First you need to look at defining the problem, right? So when you are defining the problem, you cannot just blindly do that. You must use the 5W and 1H method to define the problem. And you need to have a 1 page. There is a Japanese technique called, in 1 page, you have to list all the problem information, right? So it's called A3 page. So once you define all of that, then now you start solving the problem. So then you need to check why this problem happening. So immediately what you need to use is the why problem. Why 5 times is the very easiest thing for day-to-day life and all that mostly that you use. So that is that. And also then you need to do a prioritization of your solved problems, right? So answers to the problem, you need to prioritize, because if you have 100 issues for the problem, not all 100 can be solved. No, it's literally impossible. So you need to see the most common reasons, 80% contributing reasons for this particular problem. So then you use the 80-20 rule, right? And then fishbone and mind mapping, I don't do much, but very creative people use mind mapping. Mind mapping is a very creative people do that a lot. So I don't have that much of a very, very creative bent in my this thing, but I mostly use fishbone, but very easy thing for school leavers like this group, they can actually use 5i, which is very, very simple. 5i, and also to identify the reason for the problem, they can use a fishbone diagram. So those are the two things that they can easily use, which will help to a great extent. But if you're in an organizational context in a very structured manner using PPM and TPM tools and all of that Japanese techniques toward a production system, then you have a different ball game with a lot of information, all of that tools, many other complex tools, statistical tools are available. So for this kind of a group where they are just starting to learn solving problems, 5i is the most commonly used one that can be used. Yeah. I hope.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Any questions from the centers?
Excuse me, ma'am, I have a question.
Yes.
For an example, if I am a critical thinker, when working with the team and corporate level or HR section, there are people who control and condemn the new ideas when they are coming up. Then how can we face for such problems and how can we cooperate with it?
This is Emily Pittier, no? This is Emily Pittier. Okay, okay. Yeah, I know, because I worked in Unilever for almost 20 years, so I understand what you're saying. You know, in organization, again, another, I'm sure you must be having that side of it also being taught in the series of programs that you all are doing. Now, you guys, all of y'all are just coming already passed out from school. I mean, coming out of school, and you know, looking around to find a job and all of that, I'm assuming. So therefore, school life and organization life, work life is very different. So school, all of y'all are same age group. People think, you know, in a similar way. But when you get into an organization, you have all kinds of people, right? You have educated people, uneducated people, young people, old people, people who have been in the system for a long time, people who doesn't support, people who don't support anybody like that. There are different types of people. So you need to first, before you get into the organization to study about the organization, first you must start studying people. I always tell this to my mentees, and also anybody who comes to have a chat with me about their problems, work life and all of that. First thing, as human beings, I think my biggest learning in my last so many years at a leadership level, at a junior level, I have gone up the career ladder to become the director of a company. So I'm just telling you, you must have a good understanding about people. So you must study people first. So people are different. They may not support you all the time. I have gone through similar situations. When I joined the company at a very young age as an undergraduate, when I was working in the factory, there were some people who have been in the company for a long time, said, you come with a degree, you are trying to teach us. You know, like that they will say. Now, will you get angry when you do that? No, you have to be very tactful in such a situation. You must win them over. You must show them that we are not going to bulldoze them or boss them, or we are trying to learn. So you have to get into that level sometimes. So people will criticize your ideas. People will not help give a patient hearing to your ideas. So you need to not get into confrontation, but of course I understand they might shoot your ideas, but you need to observe the situation. You need to understand your idea. If some people are not supporting you, there may be some other people who will support you. Then you need to go and work with them, understand them, whether you can get their support to get your idea implemented. So there are different ways. So studying people is number one thing that you need to do. HR people may not support you, but they are in a different department. But you need to first understand people to see how can you influence people to get your idea across to them. So influencing ability is also one of the very important things. People skills are very important things that you need to develop, like the problem solving and critical thinking. You also have to have interpersonal skills. මිනිස්සුත් එක්ක වැඩ කරන්න පුළුවන් හැකියාවක් තියෙනවානේ. පහළ ලෙවල් එකේ ඉඳලා උඩ ලෙවල් එකේ යනකම් ඕන වෙලාවක පුළුවන් වෙන්න ඕනේ. පහළම ලෙවල් එකේ වර්කර් ඉඳලා ලොකුම ලෙවල් එකේ චාමන් ලෙවල් එකට ඕන කෙනෙක් එක්ක Tamanට කිසිම ඩිස්ටන්ස් එකක් නැතුව කතා කිරීමේ හැකියාවක් හදාගන්න ඕනේ. Then only you become very approachable to people. They will be really supporting you. I will tell you one story. I actually joined the company as a management trainee at Unilever, and then I worked for 20 years before I took early retirement in 2013. So when I joined the company and then I became a director in 2008, the very first person who came and met me and gave me a gift was a worker in the company. He actually is a photographer took a picture. He normally goes to a Kanneliya forest and he goes and takes pictures. So he took some pictures of the butterflies. He framed that picture, very big picture. And he came and gave me, "Madam, this is my gift to you. I hope you remember me. The very first day when you came to the factory, I am the one who taught you in the factory training." And I could remember that. And he could remember that. He was very happy that the person he taught me, and even afterwards, I used to have a very good chat with him. When I see him in the factory, I talk to him as I say, "Gamini, how are you? How is your children?" So I used to have it even when I went up the career ladder, I used to talk to him. So he felt very good about it. He always admire and say, "Madam, you always talk to us because although we are workforce, you're a manager and a director." So he was the first one. He said, "Madam, this is for you to have it in your room. I'm so happy that I had some respect in you and I had the chance to teach you, and now you're the director of the company." So I acknowledge that fact and said, yes, because of the training I got from all of you, not only at a higher level, everyone taught me to come to this level, and I'm grateful and thankful to you all that. So I'm saying, you should not forget people who helped you when you were at a very lower level, to support you. So, I mean, there are good people in this world. So people are not bad. Sometimes one or two people in organizations may be not good. But that also maybe they will be having varied reasons for that. But yes, don't get disappointed when your idea gets shot because of some reason or the other. Don't give up. But find ways and means to influence people. Influencing, interpersonal skills, team building skills, having good communication skills are also as equally important as developing critical thinking and problem solving skills. So we have to deal with people. Although we will have robots and automation and all of that, emotional skills have to still be there. Machines won't have that kind of thing in time to come. So you need to still have that emotional connectivity. So that's very important. As females specifically, we have that innate capability. So therefore, we must make the most of it. Yeah. So I just narrated that story to show people are very grateful. People are sometimes supportive, no matter what, but you need to also understand that and not get disappointed when people not support you with your ideas. So don't give up, be patient, and you need to find different ways to respond to such situations by being patient. I hope I answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other question, Batiklo? Okay. If you don't have any questions.
If I may, I have one. Yes. Actually. I'm actually not from one of the centers. My name is Dinasha. I think we've met at
Dinasha,
one of the
you do comparing, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, Arun,
yes.
Arun. Yes, I know you. Yes, Dinasha.
Yes. So when Susan told me that you would be doing this session, I thought it was very important that I join because I've seen you in action at the conferences. And I will be doing the next session with these guys. So I also wanted to see so that there's some continuity. My question actually is, sometimes we're faced with very overwhelming problems. They seem so huge. And I like what you said about the 5Ws and the HF being a way of breaking it down. But when the problem seems really beyond us, how do we pick a part of the problem to start with?
Yes. So what is important is you must quantify the impact first. Because see, we have so many problems. We can't go and solve the world's hunger problem, but we need to identify the impactful thing that is within that problem that you need to solve. So that is where the Pareto come into the picture, right? So the biggest impact of the problem come because of these particular reasons. And then you need to pick that problem. And then the breaking up into small pieces is that, right? Or maybe you can, once you break it into chunks and identify the biggest impact, because there are other tools and techniques which I haven't taught here because it's overwhelming for these kids. So there are lots of other techniques that you can use to quantify the impact and all of that, and then look at the different matrices are there to identify to do that. But the always in an organization, you look at the impact, right? Now look at the current problem in the country. We have a political problem and an economic problem, but then the first of all, we need to also solve the economic problem, because so that you can remove take away these unrest issues that we have. But then you need to immediately go and see how in the food chain, the issues that we are having, whether there are alternatives. We have to pick one area and solve one problem and go deep into that. Now, if you try to get the whole food problem, we will not be able to do that. We might have to take certain calls and say, we are not going to tackle these, we are only going to do these, because you can't do everything in life. So you need to prioritize. I know companies, when we have import restrictions and all of that in the country, they will say, okay, if I have 100 items in the company, I'm not going to focus all 100, but I'm taking the highest impact turnover items, and then I'm going to make sure that I'm focusing on that. I put all my resources to do that and let go some of the things. In a crisis situation, when you are overwhelmed with problems, you can't tackle everything because you have limited resources, plus you have lots of issues which you haven't experienced before. You won't be able to do that. So you might have to let go some of the things. You have to prioritize based on the impact, because organization must sustain for you to anyway solve the problems. So therefore, first of all, you need to look at the sustenance of the organization. And to do that, what is the biggest thing that you need to focus is the way forward for you to solve the problem. I hope I answered that, Dinesh.